Have you ever stopped to think, I mean, really think, about how we use that one little word, love?
Mm,
It covers so much ground, doesn't it? You know, we say we love our partner, our kids, our dog.
our favorite pizza place.
Exactly. Or even just like a really sunny day. Same word.
But the feeling is totally different. Sometimes completely contradictory, really.
Yeah, it's like English, for all its amazing words, kind of lumps this huge complex thing under one label, almost hides the depth.
It really does.
So today, that's what we're diving into. We're going to try and unpack the complexity of love.
We get beyond the surface level stuff.
Right. Move past that one-size-fits-all definition and see what's really there, its multifaceted nature.
Yeah,
And hopefully figure out how understanding it better can, deepen our own connections.
absolutely. It's fundamental to being human.
And our exploration today, it really owes a lot to some brilliant thinkers in this area, including the work of Dr. Nader Attalla. His insights have been super helpful in navigating this very intricate emotional world.
It's such a rich area. And what's fascinating is other cultures, especially in the past, saw this limitation in language too.
Like the ancient Greeks.
Yeah, exactly. The ancient Greeks, they had, well, a much more elegant solution, I think. They didn't just have love.
No single catch-all term.
Right. Which, let's be honest, feels a bit like trying to describe a whole symphony by just saying music. It doesn't capture the nuance.
That's a great analogy.
So they had different words, specific nuanced names for each type of love. It's like they handed us this incredibly detailed map.
A map to our own emotions.
Precisely. A map to understand our own emotional landscape, offering a kind of precision our language sometimes struggles with.
And that's so relevant for you listening. We want to give you clear insights today, maybe some surprising facts.
Things you can really use.
Yeah, not just, academic trivia. The goal is those aha moments about something so core to being human connection, helping you get that knowledge quickly but also deeply.
So let's dig into that first point,
Mm-hmm.
the problem with just having love in English.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. How does relying on just one word actually hide the depth we're talking about?
Well, it's convenient, sure,
Mm.
but it acts as a real linguistic limitation. It kind of smooths over the richness, the complexity of this fundamental human experience.
Because we use it for everything. A passing fancy, a lifelong commitment.
Exactly, from a fleeting preference for ice cream to, an all-consuming devotion. And without different words, it gets genuinely hard to tell them apart, even in our own heads.
Leads to confusion in ourselves and our relationships.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You might expect one kind of love from someone, but they're feeling or offering a completely different kind, and you don't even have the words to discuss it clearly.
It's like trying to navigate a huge city, but every street is just called Main Street.
That's a perfect way to put it. Whereas the Greeks, with their specific vocabulary, they gave us a much clearer, more comprehensive way to grasp these different forms.
Tools to actually articulate feelings we might sense but can't quite name.
Yes. And that gives you a framework for self-awareness, doesn't it?
It really does. Language shapes how we see things.
Tremendously. The Greeks didn't just have random words. These precise terms really do offer that clear map, understanding our own feelings, the connections we build.
And it's not just history, you're saying. It's practical.
Absolutely practical. These terms give us a framework for reflection, for growth in our relationships. If you can name a type of love, you can consciously nurture it.
Or recognize when it's missing, maybe. Or out of balance.
Exactly. You can see what a relationship truly needs rather than just feeling vaguely dissatisfied. It empowers you to address the real issues.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So let's get into the spectrum. These Greek terms, they're not just definitions, are they?
No, not at all. They're distinct expressions. Each has its own feel, its own way of engaging.
And understanding them gives us clarity. But our relationships, what makes them tick?
Precisely.
All right, so where do we start? Eros.
Let's start with Eros. Romantic and erotic love. It's probably the one most people think of first when they hear...
Named after the Greek god of love and fertility.
That's the one. It signifies that initial, often really intense physical pull, that spark.
That chemistry, racing heart, sweaty palms, the whole deal.
Yes. The stuff of poetry, the reason teenagers can't sleep. It's very powerful.
Like the honeymoon phase in a relationship. All excitement and, passion.
That's a great way to frame it. But here's the crucial bit, the insight from this perspective.
It's not the whole story.
Exactly. Eros is a powerful ignition. It gets things started, but it's not sustainable fuel on its own.
It's the rocket booster, maybe, not the main engine for the long haul.
Perfect analogy. It needs other forms of love to keep that fire burning healthily over time.
So the pitfall is thinking that initial intensity is all you need.
That's a huge pitfall. Eros is driven largely by the body, by hormones. It's potent biology.
And that traditional wisdom, that warning.
It's there for a reason. Relationships built only on Eros tend to burn hot and bright but burn out fast.
Intense, but maybe not built to last on its own.
It just wasn't designed for that kind of long-term sustenance by itself. Believing that passion is enough and not cultivating deeper bonds, that's where things often go wrong.
So how do we engage with eros in a healthy way then? If it's important but not sufficient.
It's about appreciating it for what it is, enjoying the sensory pleasure, someone's physical presence.
Connecting through touch, hugging, holding hands, kissing.
Yes, nurturing that romantic, affectionate connection. But always recognizing it's one part of the picture. An important spark, yes, but not the entire definition of love.
Got it. Okay, so after the fire of eros, what's next on the map?
Next, let's talk about philia, friendship and platonic love.
Ah, the love between friends.
Exactly. That profound bond built on mutual respect, shared values. Interestingly, the Greeks often considered this brotherly love a higher form than eros
Higher, why?
because it transcends the physical. It's based on appreciating someone's character, their mind, their spirit. It's a connection between equals.
So it's about companionship, intellectual intimacy, the kind of bond that often lasts longer than initial passion.
That's the idea. In philia, the other person isn't, an object of dependency or possessive attachment. They're a trusted equal.
Which allows for more authentic self-expression, honesty.
Precisely. And it thrives as long as that foundation of mutual respect is there. Genuine appreciation for who the person is.
And engaging in philia means what? Deeper conversations.
Definitely. Going beneath the surface. Truly listening, sharing vulnerability.
Being trustworthy, approachable, being there for each other.
Yes. And offering compassion and support, especially through tough times. That really solidifies the bond, that shared history of care. It's the bedrock of strong support networks.
Okay, so we have the spark of eros, the steady warmth of philia. What about the love that really lasts? Through thick and thin.
That brings us to pragma. Enduring love.
This is where it gets really deep, isn't it?
It really is. Because while eros might light the initial fire, pragma is what keeps it going through decades.
It's the enduring love, that deep commitment you see between long-term partners.
The ones who've weathered life's storms together. You see those elderly couples still holding hands after 50, 60 years.
Yeah. It's not about that fleeting spark anymore, is it?
Not primarily. It's about a shared lifetime of conscious effort, compromise, and showing up for each other. It's comfortable, steady.
This sounds like the real marathon of love, the bedrock of a shared life.
Beautifully put. And pragma requires that equal effort. It's not passive. It needs compromise, consistent dedication to nurturing the relationship.
Yeah. So it's less a feeling that happens to you and more a conscious choice you make every day.
Very much so. Day in, day out. Investing in that shared future. It's about steadfast devotion, a shared vision, more than intense, unpredictable passion.
It's the quiet strength.
Yes, the intentionality of continuing to choose that person, that partnership.
So how do you actively do pragma?
It's about ongoing thoughtfulness, making conscious efforts to regenerate the bond, especially when life gets hectic or routine sets in.
Showing through actions maybe the sacrifices you're willing to make.
Absolutely. And cultivating that sincere desire to build a life together, even or especially when things are difficult. That's the resilience of pragma.
Okay. Eros, philia, pragma. What else is on this Greek map?
Next up is storge, familiar love.
Familiar love, like family.
Exactly. That warm tenderness, the deep affection typically felt between family members, parents and children, siblings.
And how is this different from, say, philia?
It's interesting. With storge, love becomes less about a specific feeling you have in the moment and more about who you are in relation to that person. It's almost a state of being, an ingrained bond.
So it's less conditional.
In a way, yes. Unlike philia, which really relies on mutual respect, storge often accepts the other person's differences, their flaws, without necessarily expecting reciprocity.
Like a parent's love for a child, it just is, regardless of the child's behavior sometimes.
Precisely. It's built on that deep emotional connection, acceptance, shared memories, the shared history. It often doesn't need grand gestures. Its power is in its constancy.
And this is where we see love as service.
Often, yes. We realize that one of love's truest expressions is serving others, that natural outpouring of care, simply because they're family, part of your core unit.
So engaging in storge, That means giving time, attention, unselfishly.
Yes, and practicing letting go of resentments quickly because families can definitely push our buttons.
Ah, tell me about it.
Right. And actively creating and celebrating those shared moments, building that emotional bank account, reinforcing that sense of belonging.
That unconditional acceptance within the family unit. Okay, now, I feel like we need to address the flip side. Is there a darker aspect in this map?
There is. The Greeks recognized the shadow side too. They called it mania, obsessive love.
Obsessive love. That sounds unhealthy.
It is. It represents obsessive attachment, usually driven by a deep underlying fear of loss.
And it leads to things like jealousy, possessiveness.
Yes, exactly. Jealousy, possessiveness, codependency, control, even anger. It's when love twists into an anxious, desperate grasp, the dark mirror of affection.
So, what's the warning sign here? How do you know if love has tipped into mania?
A critical sign is when your partner or the relationship becomes central to your very survival needs, when your happiness, your sense of self-worth feels entirely dependent on them.
It's not about connection anymore. It's about filling a void, control.
Exactly. It's about managing anxiety through attachment, not genuine mutual well-being. Mania is rooted in fear and lack, not love.
That's a really important distinction. So, how do you avoid falling into mania or get out of it?
The sources suggest a few key things. First, learning to recognize those obsessive thoughts or possessive feelings before you act on them. Self-awareness is key.
Catching it early.
Yes. And crucially, focusing on developing your own happiness, your own sense of self-worth, independent of the relationship.
Not making one person your everything.
Right. Healthy boundaries are absolutely non-negotiable in all relationships to prevent this.
And maybe the hardest part, accepting loss.
That's a big one. Acknowledging and accepting that loss is a natural part of life. True love doesn't and cannot shield us from that reality. Try and control everything to avoid loss is the heart of mania. It requires inner work, self-reliance.
Okay. Heavy stuff, but really important. What's next? Something lighter, maybe.
Yes, let's move to ludus. Playful love.
Ah, ludus. Playful. I like the sound of that.
It represents that lighthearted dimension of love. Flirtation, teasing, laughter, fun.
Without necessarily the heavy commitment of pragma.
Often, yes. It's common in the early stages of dating, that honeymoon phase again, where everything feels new and exciting. But it can exist in long-term relationships too. It's the joy of interaction itself.
Just enjoying each other's company in a fun way.
Exactly. And interestingly, research actually shows that this kind of playful interaction, ludus, activates brain regions similar to those stimulated by, well, addictive substances.
Really? It gives you a rush.
It genuinely does. It's exhilarating, that novelty and delight.
Oh.
However,
There's always a however, isn't there?
well, the research also suggests that while ludus is enjoyable, committed relationships, the ones built on more than just playfulness, ultimately provide better long-term mental health benefits.
So fun is good, but we need substance too.
It highlights that biological pull of playfulness, but also that deeper human need for sustained connection, security, that goes beyond just amusement.
So how do you bring ludus into a relationship healthfully?
Engaging in those flirtatious, humorous exchanges, making specific time for shared activities just for fun date nights, games, being silly together.
Finding ways to be playful, even childlike sometimes. Keep things fresh.
Absolutely. Bringing that sense of lightness and joy into the everyday, even after years together. It's important.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there one more on the main spectrum?
Yes, and it's arguably the most foundational of all, Philotia. Self-love.
Self-love. Okay, this feels crucial.
It is. Philotia represents healthy, non-narcissistic self-love. The Greeks were really wise about this. They recognized that before you can genuinely, authentically love others, you first have to develop compassion and care for yourself.
So it starts within.
It absolutely has to. This inner relationship, the one you have with yourself, it becomes the template, the blueprint for all your external connections.
How so?
It shapes how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you relate to everyone and everything, if you're constantly beating yourself up internally.
That negativity spills outwards, affects how you see others.
Inevitably, you project that criticism, that lack of acceptance. Philotia isn't about being selfish or arrogant. It's about building a secure, compassionate internal base from which to engage with the world.
So understanding and nurturing yourself, it's not selfish at all.
Not in the slightest.
Yeah.
It's the absolute foundation for all the other forms of love to truly blossom. Think about it. When you're run down, stressed out, depleted, what do you really have to offer anyone else?
Not much authentic care, probably. More likely irritability.
Exactly. But when you feel Balanced, whole, cared for by yourself, your capacity to genuinely care for others just naturally expands. It flows outward.
So creating an environment that supports your own well-being is necessary for love to flourish.
Absolutely necessary.
Right.
And that involves different aspects. Physical care, eating well, sleeping enough, moving your body, mental care learning, being creative, mindfulness, social connection, spending time with supportive people, community involvement, and spiritual nourishment.
Whatever that means for you personally.
Right. Being in nature, meditation, prayer, connecting to something larger than yourself, it's holistic.
Wow. So understanding all these different forms, eros, philia, pragma, storge, mania, ludus, philotia, it gives us incredible clarity, doesn't it?
It really does. Clarity about our relationships, what they need.
And maybe most importantly, realizing love isn't just a passive feeling.
Exactly. It's a capacity we can develop, a choice we make. We have agency here. This ancient map helps us navigate our connections, past, present, and future.
That's a really powerful thought. And it feels like a perfect bridge to what the sources call the highest form, agapo.
Yes, the highest form, agape and unconditional love.
But before we jump fully into agape, you're saying we need to circle back to self-love. Philautia is the foundation.
Absolutely critical. You have to build that base first, create that nurturing environment for yourself, treat yourself with kindness like a loving parent treats a child.
Surround yourself with people who lift you up, not drain you.
Yes, it all starts there. You can't pour from an empty cup. That self-love creates the capacity for agape.
Okay, so what is agape then, this highest expression?
Agape is, well, it's described as a luminous state, something few people fully embody all the time. Think of the sun.
How it shines on everything.
Exactly. It shines equally on everything it touches, without discrimination. Agape is like that, a universal love radiating outward to all forms of life. No preference, no judgment.
Wow, that's a high bar.
It is. At this level of consciousness, the sources say, you become capable of truly forgiving enemies, loving without conditions, while still deeply respecting everyone's freedom. It sees the inherent worth in every single being.
So when Jesus said, agapeterelis, love one another, he wasn't just talking about warm feelings.
Likely not just sentimentality. It was an invitation to tap into this transcendent love that, these traditions suggest, already exists within us. With agape, you might still prefer certain things or people, but those preferences don't dictate who receives your care.
It transcends preference.
Yes, it connects to what many call divine or spiritual love, a love that springs from a source that lacks nothing, that gives freely, like a wellspring that never runs dry.
And unlike other forms of love, it can't be possessed or lost.
That's a key difference. It's seen as constant, unchanging. It exists beyond worthiness or exchange. You don't earn agape. You receive it. You open to it through an inner decision.
So in modern terms, maybe like radical altruism.
That's a good parallel. A love embracing strangers, nature, animals, victims, and perpetrators, the admirable and the flawed, asking nothing back.
Seeing beyond the actions to the core being.
Exactly.
The source mentioned a really powerful example. The mother visiting her son in prison.
Yes, the son convicted of murder. She doesn't condone his actions. She doesn't excuse the crime. But her love for him, as her son, remains.
She forgives him despite his actions, not because of them.
That's a profound glimpse of agape, a love that persists beyond judgment, beyond circumstances.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that's so quick to judge, so divided. How radical is that idea? Love without condition, without preference.
It challenges our fundamental ideas about justice, about who deserves love. It suggests a path to healing that's completely different from blame or retaliation. It points towards deep understanding.
It really does. And it's crucial to see how different this is from, say, romantic love, eros.
Worlds apart, really, in their core nature.
So romantic love, it's often based on attraction, which can fade.
Often fades. Once the initial chase or novelty is over, yes. It's transient, you can gain it, you can lose it. Which creates that undercurrent of fear, that anxiety about loss.
And it's fueled by adrenaline, sex hormones, powerful but not necessarily stable long-term on its own.
Right. And that intensity can sometimes impair judgment, lead to attachment, possessiveness, needing control. The fear of losing it can even trigger really negative emotions, rage, jealousy.
So eros needs those other forms, like philia or pragma, to become sustainable.
Absolutely. Whereas agape, it operates completely differently.
How so?
It perceives the essence, the underlying beauty and love in everything. Beyond just appearances, it's seen as permanent, continuous, self-sustaining.
It starts as a conscious decision, you said, before it flows from the heart.
Yes, often it begins with that choice, that intention. And interestingly, it enhances discernment of truth without the fog of attachment or possessiveness. You see things more clearly.
And neurologically, emotionally, it feels different.
Completely different. It's associated with the release of endorphins, that feeling of profound well-being and peace. Not chaotic passion, but deep inner calm.
The benefits sound immense, transformative.
They really are, according to these sources.
Yeah.
The journey towards agape is seen as the core goal in many spiritual traditions. Why? Because trying to fix the world's problems without addressing the root cause, the absence of love, ultimately falls short.
True healing comes from love's energy.
Yes, both personal and collective healing. And this love force, it doesn't just work through direct action. It transforms through energetic resonance.
Meaning?
We change the world less by what we do or have, and more by what we become. Our inner state radiates outwards.
Like when you meet someone whose presence just feels good, calming, uplifting, even if they haven't said a word.
Exactly. Their very being shifts the energy in the room. That's the power of a loving presence. True influence comes from that inner state.
David Hawkins had that story, right? About the hunter.
Yes, a very poignant illustration. The hunter shoots a duck, it falls injured. The duck's mate flies down, shields the wounded partner with her own wings, accepting the same fate.
Wow.
And witnessing that act of pure, selfless love just transforms the hunter. On the spot, he vows never to hunt again. One moment of seeing agape in action changed his entire life.
It's incredible how love can shift things so profoundly.
And it's not just stories. Some traditions view unconditional love as the fundamental law of the universe, the ultimate truth. People experiencing this state often gain deep wisdom, discernment.
And it connects to forgiveness.
Deeply. When you love unconditionally, you naturally seek to understand others, including their mistakes. Understanding birth forgiveness, not condoning, but understanding.
So it helps release things like guilt, shame, bitterness. Letting go becomes easier.
More instinctive, yes. It fosters inner peace. And this energy, this love, it catalyzes potential. Think of support groups.
Like AA or others.
Yes. The love and acceptance within those groups often motivates profound, lasting change that members might struggle to achieve alone. Love helps possibilities become realities.
It creates a sense of unity, too, seeing our connection.
Definitely. You start to perceive that fundamental oneness with all life, recognizing love as the essence of everything. The ego's illusion of separation starts to dissolve.
And the science is starting to back this up, right? This isn't just spiritual woo-woo.
Increasingly, yes. It's fascinating. Research on things like loving kindness meditation, LKM, and compassion meditation, CM, shows they increase positive emotions, reduce stress, anxiety.
LKM focuses on unconditional kindness, CM on sympathy and wishing to ease suffering.
Exactly. And neuroscience is showing that experiencing this kind of love literally changes brain physiology.
Changes our brains. How?
It shifts the energy balance, often from the analytical left brain towards the more intuitive, holistic right brain. It physically rewires neural connections, boosting empathy.
And neurotransmitters.
Hormones. Big impact there, too. It triggers the release of the feel-good chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, while reducing stress hormones like cortisol, a direct route to well-being.
It makes sense why psychologists like Maslow said we need unconditional love to reach our potential.
Or Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, saying love is essential for a meaningful life, the only way to truly know another's essence.
And that through loving someone, you help them actualize their potential. It's reciprocal.
It really is. And this aligns with ideas from other fields, too, like quantum physics or the law of attraction. The idea that what we focus on, what we embody internally, tends to manifest externally.
So cultivate love and compassion.
And you're more likely to attract loving relationships and circumstances. The change starts inside. To have others be more loving, we first need to offer love. It changes us. And through us, it changes the world.
Okay, so this journey towards agapeo. It sounds amazing, but maybe daunting. How do we actually do it? Let's get practical.
Right, the journey to unconditional love. Practical steps and pathways to agape. And let's be real, the path isn't always easy.
We all have baggage, right? Past hurts, conditioning.
Exactly. Painful experiences, maybe genetic predispositions, social messages, limiting beliefs we've picked up. These are real barriers.
But it's still possible. It's a choice.
That's the core message. Despite the obstacles, moving towards agape is an inner choice available to anyone willing to undertake the journey. Think of those powerful teachings.
Love your enemy.
Or Buddha's, hate is not conquered by hate, hate is conquered by love. These aren't just nice sayings, they're practical instructions for inner transformation.
So, Step one, where do we start?
Step 1, love yourself unconditionally first. We have to come back to Philosophy.
Khalil Gibran. And God said, love your enemy, and I obeyed him and loved myself. That quote nails it.
It really does. You have to fill your own well first. Remember the oxygen mask on the plane? Secure your own first. You can't give what you don't have.
And we're often hardest on ourselves, aren't we? We know all our own flaws.
Intimately, which makes us our own harshest critics. But learning to embrace ourselves despite the imperfections, that's what builds the capacity to offer that same grace to others.
Maya Angelou's wisdom. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Allows for self-compassion for the past.
Exactly. And if you fundamentally don't believe you're worthy of receiving unconditional love, how can you truly believe you're worthy of offering it? The empty cup can't pour.
Makes sense. Okay, step 2.
Step 2, choose to forgive everything and seek understanding. Forgiveness is the master key.
Everything, not just the small stuff.
Complete and total forgiveness, not selective. A willingness to release everything. Take a moment, ask yourself, what haven't I forgiven? In myself, in others. Those are the blockages.
And it's not just thinking, I forgive you. It's deeper.
It's a state of being that emerges from the heart. It means forgiving even those who never say sorry, even perceived enemies.
But that doesn't mean condoning harmful actions.
Right, not at all. Hate the sin, love the sinner. You can hold people accountable while still holding love and forgiveness for them as a person. Like Jesus saying, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
And it's a process, not a light switch.
Definitely requires patience. Understanding grows as you commit to love. Love naturally wants to comprehend, not condemn. And remember, forgiveness can, and often must, coexist with healthy boundaries.
Loving someone might mean loving them from a safe distance sometimes.
Absolutely. While maintaining forgiveness in your heart.
Okay, step 3.
Step 3, choose to see beauty in all life.
Like putting on rose-tinted glasses.
Kind of. Imagine glasses that filter out the perceived imperfections and just highlight the inherent beauty everywhere. Agape operates like that. It sees the underlying goodness, the potential.
Like the sun, shining impartially.
Exactly. Training ourselves to radiate love without discrimination, focusing on the perfection hidden within the flaws rather than projecting judgment. It's a perceptual shift.
Powerful. Step 4.
Step 4, let go of attachment and possessiveness.
Ugh, detachment again.
Yes, agape knows how to share freely without clinging. It finds more joy in giving than in keeping. It doesn't need recognition or thanks.
And even subtle expectations create attachment.
They do. Giving with strings attached creates pressure, resistance. Love is the primary energy. Everything else is secondary. Practice releasing your grip on things, expectations, plans, outcomes. Freedom grows as attachment shrinks.
Okay, and the 5th step.
Step 5, accept yourself, others, and all life experiences.
Acceptance. That sounds like the Serenity Prayer.
Very much aligned with it. Moving towards lovingness means accepting life as it unfolds, rather than constantly fighting it or trying to fix everything.
Seeing the hidden perfection even in difficult circumstances.
Yes. Accepting what comes through others, through the world, exactly as it is. Accepting the things we cannot change. Having courage to change what we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That acceptance is the foundation for peace and lovingness.
So it's not about being perfect overnight.
Not at all. It's about the willingness to start, one intentional choice at a time. The journey itself is transformative. Each step ripples outwards. Your commitment becomes, in its own quiet way, a healing force.
Okay, so we have the steps. Now, how do we weave this into daily life? Make it really practical.
Right, let's talk cultivating unconditional love in daily life. 5 practical pathways to agape, because the real power is in consistent daily practice.
Pathway number 1.
Pathway 1, choose love without expectations. Think about giving a gift. Do you secretly wait for thanks for something back?
Sometimes, maybe unconsciously.
Agape flows freely, without that inner scorekeeper. So dedicate yourself to improving others' lives through love that asks nothing in return. Offer time, charity, support, wisdom.
And tailor it to the situation, a shoulder to cry on or just quiet presence.
Exactly. Ask yourself, how can I help with love right now? And then just do it, without looking for payback.
Okay. Pathway 2.
Pathway 2, embrace all forms of life. This love isn't just for humans, extend it outwards. To nature, animals, all beings.
How do you practice that daily?
Ask yourself, am I expressing unconditional love toward all of life today? And maybe try one small act of expansive love each day.
Like appreciating nature, being kind to an animal.
Giving without expectation, letting someone into traffic, holding a door, small acts that reinforce that outward flow of care.
Pathway 3.
Pathway 3. Replace fear with love. Remember, we said they rarely coexist.
Love casts out fear.
It's a deep psychological truth. In agape, fear dissolves because love comes from within, not depending on external things that can be lost.
So instead of fearing losing someone,
Appreciate loving them now. Instead of fearing job loss, extend love to colleagues. Instead of fearing weight gain, love your body now. Reframe fear with a conscious choice for love.
pathway 4 sounds important too.
Pathway 4. Engage in supportive communities.
Like those support groups you mentioned. AA, Smart Recovery.
Yes, places where unconditional love is often practiced explicitly. They love you for who you are, not what you have or do, just a fellow human.
A place to practice receiving and giving agape.
Exactly. They model it.
And pathway 5 brings in more modern research.
Pathway 5. Practice the 5 love languages. Dr. Gary Chapman's work. It gives us practical handles on how to express love effectively.
Because understanding how someone receives love is as important as the love itself.
It really is. It makes your loving intentions land more powerfully.
So quickly, those 5 are words of affirmation,
Hearing I love you, verbal praise,
acts of service,
thoughtful actions, doing things for them,
receiving gifts,
tangible tokens, where the thought counts most,
quality time,
undivided attention, being fully present, and physical touch.
holding hands, hugs, intimacy.
Right.
Knowing yours and others helps love flow better.
It provides clear pathways for connection.
Okay, this is all incredibly helpful. Now let's touch on something that shapes our ability to do all this. Attachment theory.
Yes, understanding our love blueprints. Attachment theory. Why do some people find love easy while others struggle with anxiety or avoidance?
Our early relationships create templates.
Profoundly shaped by them. John Bowlby, Cindy Hazan, Philip Shaver. Their work shows how bonds with caregivers create these patterns, these blueprints that usually stick with us into adulthood.
It explains so much about how we relate as adults, our internal love blueprints.
Exactly, and understanding your own blueprint is key to growth.
So there are 4 main styles. First, secure attachment.
Yes. Comfortable with intimacy, trust easily, communicate well, healthy boundaries, positive view of relationships, resilient. For secures, unconditional love flows more naturally. They have that solid base.
Then anxious preoccupied.
Often feels insecure, needs constant validation, prone to jealousy or possessiveness, interprets neutral events negatively, fears separation intensely. Emotional hunger, often drawn to drama.
Next, dismissive avoidant.
Highly independent, avoids deep intimacy or vulnerability, pushes people away, needs space, prioritizes work over relationships, suppresses emotions, withdraws from conflict, often distrusts others, but has high self-esteem based on achievement.
And the 4th, fearful avoidant.
Often shaped by trauma or neglect. Deeply ambivalent, wants closeness, but is deeply uncomfortable with it. Struggles to trust, views self as unworthy, swings between clinging and pushing away. Intense emotional highs and lows, fears abandonment and intimacy.
Wow. These patterns sound really ingrained, but they're not set in stone.
Absolutely not. That's the hope. With awareness, support, practice, you can shift towards more secure attachment. You can revise the blueprint.
Which creates a better foundation for giving and receiving unconditional love.
Precisely. Small, consistent steps towards security make a huge difference. It's not about grand gestures, but those daily shifts in mindset and action. That's what rewires us for love.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the key takeaway is that agape, unconditional love, it's not a final destination.
More like a continuous journey, a moment-by-moment choice to see beyond the surface, to see the essence in everyone, everything.
And taking that path changes everything, our relationships, our whole life experience.
It offers a profound freedom. Freedom from judgment, expectation, fear. You find yourself able to forgive the seemingly unforgivable, embrace what you once rejected, find beauty everywhere.
And it doesn't require perfection.
Just willingness, practice, patience with yourself. Each small choice to love unconditionally, showing compassion to yourself, forgiving someone, seeing the good in a stranger, it all ripples outwards.
In a world needing healing, that commitment becomes a quiet force for good.
Your patient practice of agape creates a sanctuary for you and everyone you meet. Remember, it's not just about what you feel, but about who you become.
Like Martin Luther King Jr. said, I have decided to stick with love, Hate is too great a burden to bear.
It's the noblest adventure, really, the journey towards unconditional love,
And it starts right now with your next thought, your next breath, your next choice.
the choice to see through the eyes of love.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If science suggests cultivating this love changes our brains and attracts better circumstances, what could happen in your life and maybe the world if you committed to just one practice consistently for a month?
Just one small step.
Yeah. Think about which Greek form you want to nurture, or pick one daily practice: the mirror practice, the judgment pause, a random act of kindness. What small step towards unconditional love will you take today? You've just taken a deep dive into love's transformative power. Hopefully, you feel equipped with new insights and tools for your own journey.